Welcome to the Green Wasp Removal YouTube channel. In this episode, we were called to a construction site that was remodeling a house that had a brick wall that was entirely infested, the entire wall, from the ground to the eaves to the attic, all the way up the wall. There were Yellowjackets throughout this entire structure. We found them coming out of the vents at the top of the peak of the roof. We found them coming out of holes in the walls all the way down the wall. There appeared to be multiple very large nests with thousands and thousands of wasps each in these nests. We attempted to find some access into the attic space to begin with, and it was so filled with toxic dust and ductwork and blown-in insulation, fiberglass insulation. We tried to find an access point through the garage into the attic, as you see here. We ran into the same problem here. There were no access boards to hold a body as you go across the ceilings. You could just fall through at any point. There was buried electric. It was a mess. So the attic was out. We tried then to do some exploratory holes in the walls, and we found only dead ends and couldn't find a way through with the scope cam to see anything. There was brick right behind all of this plaster. Up in the top of the ceiling, there was nice wood. We didn't want to destroy all of that by doing a bunch of exploratory work inside. So after the interior inspection, we decided with the construction crew it was not worth trying to get through the inside of the building. So we arranged for an attrition collection, which is where you collect all the flying wasps from the outside of the building only. And this way you can starve the nests, however many were in there, by simply collecting all of the foragers that go out for food, so they can't bring food back to the nest will die, and that's what we ended up doing here. This was a long-term remodel. The construction crew was not in any huge rush. There was no immediate move-in happening here at this property. So over the next month, we came back at this property about 4 times or so and collected thousands and thousands of wasps. As you see here, it was an extremely busy place to work. There was a ton of wasps coming out of this structure. There were probably several nests, not just one, throughout the attic all the way down the walls. So we just took our time, did an attrition collection from the outside, and over time we dwindled that population down to the point where these nests were starving out, and we were not seeing much traffic at all coming out of them by the time we were done. This type of job is great for Venom Immunotherapy collection because we are getting so many wasps out, and most of them are female forager wasps, which means they all have venom sacs so they can be collected and used for Venom Immunotherapy. By the time we were done, there was very little traffic left coming in and out of any of these holes in the bricks, so we knew that we had starved out most of these nests and the job was coming to an end. And we'll show you the entire process. Let's go back now to September 6, 2024, when we began the job, and we'll take you all the way through October 10th of 24 when we wrapped it up. Thanks for riding along with us. If you enjoy the content you see on our channel, please remember to like, share, subscribe, and comment to let us know you're there. Enjoy the show. September 6, 2024. We're at a house that's under construction for a remodel, and the responsible party gave us a call and let us know about a very active Yellowjacket nest in the walls, probably all the way up in a lot of the bays in the walls and also up in the attic based on the activity we're seeing here. So we're going to take a scope cam today, fiber optic cable with a camera on it, and we're going to put that through these holes in the wall where there's a lot of activity. So as you can see here, these are German Yellowjackets. They're one of the least aggressive species we deal with. The workers here stuffed some wood in one of their entry holes, and they're in the process of chewing that wood away so that they can get back in there. And then just a few inches away, there's another hole, very active, a lot of traffic, a lot of foragers coming and going. And so we're going to put the scope cam in there and see what we can find. And then further up the wall, there's a vent system here, and it is crawling with Yellowjackets. They're coming in and out of multiple entry points in the corners over here, and also you see them coming out, and they're crawling up through the vent screens into the vent, and they're up here, going up into the top of the vent. So there's probably several very large, in the many thousands of insects each, probably several very large nests maybe in the attic, maybe in the walls. So let's take a look with the scope, see what we can see. So there's no obvious sign right off the bat of a nest right behind the wall. So they must be walking a ways to get to it, wherever it is. Let's look up here on this side of things. So here's up under the vent. You can see where they're coming and going. So we're not seeing much on this camera. We're gonna have to inspect the attic and maybe do some exploratory holes. You can see lots of them up in the vent areas. Just crawling in and out of here. So we're inside a small closet in the bedroom, and this is the only accessible hatch to the attic. And unfortunately, it's on the opposite end of the house. And it is a mess up there with insulation and ductwork. So there's no way to get up through all that to where we need to be to inspect. So I wish this was the vent on the other side of the house, but we're on the opposite end of the house. So it looks like we're not going to be able to get up through this attic. And that's a bummer. So now we're in the garage, and this is the only other place that's accessible for the attic. And unfortunately, it's also on the opposite end of the house. So we can't really see much here either. But we're going to climb up here and just see what it looks like. You can see way back there is where we'd have to crawl, and there's no boards down to allow a body to walk, and there's tons of pink toxic fiberglass insulation that we'd have to crawl through to get where we're going, and that's just not going to happen. So we're here in the living room, and there's these beams across the ceiling. We're by one of the beams where the ceiling meets the wall. And we're hearing a lot of chewing noises right here in this area. So we're going to use a drill here and make a little access hole today. Maybe that's brick already. You think this is brick already we're bumping into? Maybe. So behind the plaster here, we just hit brick immediately. So there's not a huge space between this wall and the outer brick. So the chewing sounds are very loud, and they're coming from right up in here. So the next point of entry is going to have to be the wood. I hate to damage this wood, it's beautiful, but we don't have a choice, and it's been authorized. So we're going to go through here with a drill, and we're going to see if we can get the scope cam up there to see what's going on. Looks like insulation maybe up there. We'll see. All right, so here's our scope cam fired up. It's just a little camera attached to a long fiber optic cable. And we're going to go ahead and see what's up here in this hole that we just drilled in the wood. So there's a solid bit of insulation there or something that we can't get through. Not standing in there but insulation. No sign of wasps. September 14th, 2024. We're at another attrition collection job, meaning we're going to collect them all from the outside. These are Vespula germanica, or German Yellowjackets. They're very fond of roosting in cavities in buildings, so they could be anywhere from the attic all the way down the bays of the wall between the studs, or in the brick cavities, or in the space between the brick and the inner wall. So they're exiting from these holes in the wall. And so we're just sucking them up as they come in and out. We'll probably have to close up this other hole to get them coming and going, mostly from the other side. So as you can see, the workmen that were here, they tried to clog these with sticks, and the wasps just go around them. So we're starting to get them collected here. They're just flying in waves like they normally do, the foragers. This hole we completely closed off with a wooden peg. So now they're going to be forced to come to the right side hole, and we'll just collect them directly from there, because they will quickly adapt, learning that this is no longer passable. So they will start coming over here, and they'll get collected there. In the meantime, up on top in this corner, the windowsill above, or the old vent frame above, there's another very active hole. There's another active hole on the other side here. So with an attrition collection like this, we just relax and let the machine do the collecting. And we'll stay here for about an hour, and then we'll go to the next job for an hour, the next job for an hour. As long as the vac battery lasts, we'll just keep collecting like this from the exterior of different locations, and we'll get quite a number of viable wasps for venom immunotherapy that way. And these are nests that are inaccessible. In other words, we can't go from the inside of the building, we can't get to them, we can't take them out directly, the entire nest. So all we can do is collect from the outside to reduce the population. And this system works great for exactly that. So the species you see here is Vespula germanica. Vespula means yellowjacket type wasp. Germanica is just the species of Vespula we're looking at. And this is an invasive species from Eurasia. So here in upstate Indiana, in North America, in the USA, they are invasive. They've been here since, they believe, between the 60s and the 80s is when they arrived and got established here in this country, most likely due to international trade. They're coming off trade containers and ships and so forth from overseas. In Eurasia, where they're from, in the temperate parts of Asia, North Africa, Europe, they're a very beneficial species, but here they're invasive. And what the term invasive means is simply that they will reduce and compete for the resources that our native insects also need to survive. So the Vespula germanica nest will reduce so much of the local pest insect population, which is generally good for the ecosystem, but it's not good for those native wasps that also are attempting to live on those same resources. So it's a little unclear how much negative impact Vespula germanica is going to have on our local species of wasps. We don't really have enough research on that to call it one way or the other, but the assumption is wherever there's an invasive situation, it's not going to be great for the local ecosystem. And this seems to be true all around the world, where Vespula germanica has come into an area that had never had them before. There is a pretty negative impact happening there. So far, some of the best research comes out of Australia and New Zealand regarding the negative impact they're having on the ecosystems down there, where they have no natural predators really at all, because their populations in their nests get so large, especially in areas where they can overwinter in warmer climates. The amount of resources they take up just by foraging to feed their nests competes with the food that's also needed by local insects, local birds, local invertebrates. It's a knock-on effect that can be quite serious. That said, in areas that have local yellowjackets already that are native to their areas, such as North America, we have a lot of different native yellowjackets. The impact of Vespula germanica may be less, but we really don't know. That's the issue. There's not enough research being done specifically about this wasp to find out whether or not they're seriously damaging our ecosystem and taking up resources that a lot of other animals need. As you see here, this wasp is bringing food back to one of the holes that we blocked, and it's looking for another way in. Vespula germanica. It's German Yellowjacket, invasive species here in the States. We'll get these frozen up for Venom Immunotherapy now. This is what they sound like. October 3rd, 2024, and we're back at another attrition job. So we had visited this property several times over a month-long period, and we never once in that entire time period saw a single native yellowjacket at this property, not one. Nowhere on the trees or the vegetation or in any of the buildings at this property. All we saw were Vespula germanica. That does lead us to believe that they're simply taking over certain places in North America. There's just no doubt about that. This property was very conducive to yellowjackets in general, just because of the way it was laid out. A lot of trees, a lot of vegetation, plenty of resources, but no native yellowjackets here. Just thousands of Vespula germanica. So while you can't really judge an entire region by one property, of course, it does make you wonder how serious an impact this is having on our native wasp. October 10th, 2024. We're back at another Attrition Collection that we've been working on over the last couple of weeks. Still some activity up there. Still some very late season foraging happening. So at this point in the job, after several visits, we were no longer seeing any activity coming out of the holes in the wall in the lower half of the building. Just a little bit of activity left up in the attic section, and that was becoming quite minimal. So we put a few pieces of duct tape around the areas where they were attempting to enter to avoid the vacuum. Their main entry is where we put the vacuum, but they had some other entry points that they would try to use, so we put tape on those to force them to go into the entry near the vac where they can get collected. So right now you see them orienting around, trying to figure out if they want to go for that and what happened to their other little entry holes. And they're getting collected steadily. So after this date, we didn't need to return. The construction crew was mentioning there was no more visible wasps, so we knew this job was completed. We had starved out whatever nests were there, and that's how an attrition collection works. Thanks for riding along with us. Have a good one.